Hello, right, today we're going to look at my OG Xbox development kit and debug kit. This one's the green debug kit. Debug kits have existed right the way from the SNES. As long as really consoles have existed, they've needed to be there for game development. This is the green debug unit, pretty basic on the back, not much different to a standard Xbox. As you can see, it says debug unit on the base. Not much else differs externally from a normal Xbox. This is the development unit. Primarily this was the actual unit that was used in conjunction with a PC to make games on. As you can see, it's got extra ports at the back allowing it to connect to the host PC. This unit's considerably bigger, considering it has to house more boards inside to allow it to connect to PCs. The debug unit was specifically made really for testing and debugging of the games. Big differences between the standard Xbox and the debug is the standard Xbox had 64 mega RAM and the debug and development units have got 128. They also have a special kernel and BIOS, which allows obviously a different dashboard to be used. The debug unit was mainly used for testing levels or parts of games or just parts of code or games, on real hardware to make sure they'd work properly. This bit just shows the graphical output of the Xbox, what it could do. The next bit is refined to looking at the joypad, make sure you could test that what things were working and your program that you were running was compatible with the Xbox to make sure it actually did what it was supposed to do. In this next bit is just a field, obviously just show you can just rotate, zoom in and out. It's a pretty basic technical demo. This next part, again, these are all pretty standard demos that run most dev systems. Just goes to show what the Xbox could do. Just shows the graphical capabilities and the things that the Xbox could do. Pretty much different to other machines, just to let the developer get the hang of what was actually capable on that machine. Nothing particularly fantastic or mind-blowing here. It's just you can change the ships, you can change the spray pattern of the weapon, and you just have to shoot these little globes. Now on to an actual development game, Ghost Rider. What you'll see from the next coming images, obviously this was quite an early part of the game. It was obviously very unfinished. There were lots of segments that were quite unfinished. You'll see from this next bit that you can't, even though the graphics and the front end and all the graphics are in place, the camera angle can't really be very easily adjusted, which makes the game particularly difficult to use. There you go, all the graphics are there, but the camera angles, you can't manipulate behind the player yourself or move around to different angles. So obviously these things are what the developer brought in later in the day, but this was, there's no knowing how far this game was along or what stage this game was at, but obviously they wanted to get it on real hardware just so they could see what sometimes you don't realise these things until you actually put them on real hardware and try and play them, and that's exactly what the purpose of this machine. This is a in-game demo, so you can turn things on and off in-game. They're almost very similar to cheat menus in a way. You can turn on one-shot kills, and you can turn on frame rate counters, you can turn memory counters on, so they can really see what's actually going on with the nuts and bolts of the game. In this particular bit, you can see that the gameplay is pretty much there, the character's pretty much there, but obviously it's very apparent that there's no texturing on the actual walls or anything on the floor. The ceiling's there in its basic form, but obviously this was very much a early demo of that particular level. This is another beta. This was what was stored on my development system when I got it, so obviously I don't know who owned this before, what demos they'd loaded it on, or what particular studio that it was being owned with at the time. This does look pretty much quite a well polished game, so I assume this is either a beta or or very close to the retail version of the game. Because to be fair, I can't see much wrong with it. Maybe the camera angles that you can use maybe needed tweaking, but I think this game was particularly close to its retail cousin, if you know what I mean. It's pretty close. I've not seen any graphical errors or much going wrong with this game at all really, but it was stored on my development system. so I thought I'd give it a show. This next one, again, it's a debug of the game. This game, obviously, I would say this probably game's 50 to 60% finished. There are quite a few things that do pop up that are wrong, and things that don't work. You'll see as you're going round that graphics are popping in and out and stuff like that. And the game is basically there. All the texture mapping and all the bits are all done there, and so I think there's quite a lot of detail there. But I think what probably needed to be sorted on this game was a bit of the playability, a bit more of the in-game mechanics to make it a bit easier and a bit better to play. You saw from that explosion, I don't think that was finished. There is the beauty. All along the top line, you've got a lot of the debug information to see how the game engine is coping running the game on the Xbox. It's normally when the system runs out of resources or there's an error in the programming, it falls over, and that's what they're looking for with these particular bits of kit. This was just something else I found lurking around. It's pretty basic. It's just a few minutes on this. There's not a lot to it. It's pretty basic. There's just one level really. You can't seem to proceed any further. But it does go to show what was capable on the machine. I don't know if this grew actually into a game or whether it was just a tech demo, I don't know. Right, if you notice there at the bottom of the screen was the Debug Unit's IP address. I've got this connected to a PC through a network, so basically very easy to set up communication. You just input the Xbox's IP address into this program called Xbox Neighborhood, and when you've put this in, basically you just click a few boxes and say yes, and basically allows you access to the hardware so that you can log in, you can load in games onto the hard drive, you can run games, smaller bits and programs, bits and bobs. You can take screenshots, you can run executables from the actual Xbox. You don't have to be actually on the dashboard, you can run them straight from the hard drive. So that's the files that are stored on the Xbox. So nice and easy tool to use. Obviously that was what was used when they were used for the development. This next bit, being it's 128 meg Xbox, I thought I'd include this. It can run Chihiro ROMs because it's got that extra RAM, and obviously these are a few games that the 128 megabyte Xbox can run. So this is obviously Outrun, then House of the Dead. There's quite a list actually of the Chihiro ROMs that have some have been adapted, some run straight out of the box, so just something interesting just to throw into the mix. So there's the Xbox dev kits of mine. Just thought I'd do a quick video on that. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.